welcome back to
Bean Stuff.
Now, we're a little bit late. I know we said we'd be doing it on a Friday, so we are late on a Friday today, but we are going to be doing an episode today, so sorry about that. But today we're going to talk about camping. And Dad, here's the question I have. Do we have to skimp for coffee when we camp?
Oh, that's the good thing about camping. Well, when I camp anyway, there's no skimping involved.
Oh, my.
In other words, you can have good coffee, you can have a good cup of coffee, you can have fresh coffee, all the things we've been talking about already, even while you're camping.
So I can take good coffee with me. I can take the whole process.
Basically, yes. Yeah, you can.
All right, well, let's go from very, very start to the very, very end. So what, can I roast coffee while I'm camping?
Wow, you can. I've done it a few times, and it's quite possible to roast coffee. You need a few things, especially if you have no electricity. It's done a little slightly different, but guess what? You can roast really good, fresh coffee.
Well, you used to have a little popcorn popper that had like a wooden handle with a crank on it.
Yes.
And you used to roast coffee with that on there. I might be getting ahead of ourselves.
No, it's fair. Well, you are a little bit, but that's a, what's they call a whirly pop?
We can call it a whirly bird.
Oh, okay, let's call it that. And it's really for popcorn, but it works brilliantly for roasting coffee on a fire. The only thing is you don't want to get burnt.
Right.
And it does take a little while, and it's not overly consistent, but it's fresh coffee, and man, is it good.
And I think I want to put a caution out there for anybody wanting to do fresh coffee with camping. If you're roasting coffee and camping, I would say expect some people to stop by.
Oh, yes. Especially start roasting coffee. First they think it's popcorn, then they realize the smell is not popcorn, and then you tell them, well, it won't be ready till the next morning because you need time to rest coffee, and you'll probably have a good line outside your tent by the morning.
Coffee or toast? Sometimes it might get this guy, people might think it's toast.
True.
Burning toast.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So as we walk into, so let's say I'm going camping. I want good coffee. I want to skimp. I want no skimping at all. What are the kind of concerns that I'm going to walk into? I want to be aware of with coffee. With regards to coffee and camping. What are the things I want to be looking out for?
First thing I would think of would be to be prepared. In other words, you've gone camping. You've got this wonderful spot. It's isolated. It's wonderful, and you suddenly realize you didn't bring some important equipment. Like a French press, or how you're going to drink the coffee, or there's different ways to do it, and we're going to talk about that. But you've got a long way to go back home suddenly, and you can't just go to the local store and buy whatever you're missing. So you need to be prepared. I always write a little list out.
Checklist.
Little checklist, and I've got it on my phone there, and I just make sure, check off all the things, make sure. Because there's always one thing you leave. I don't know why.
Once you're out in the wop-wops.
The wop-wops, that's right.
There's no
the
way.
Boonies.
The boonies. There's nothing you can do to get those things back, but unless, going and getting or buying another one, which is expensive and stuff.
I have once, I remember, I think I was camping with you, and we went, and I ran out of gas.
Gas in the car or gas on the stove?
Gas for the stove.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. And I've run out of gas for the car at some stage too, but the gas for the stove, and suddenly I was at this particular camping trip, I was using a little propane burner to be my heat source, and it ran out. And what do you do now? And I remember driving an hour and a quarter back to some township and finding some expensive propane to get our little stove top going again so I could boil the water.
I think that's the moral of the story. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
And whatever cost it takes.
Time, money. Yeah, true.
So we've got. Number one, be prepared.
Yeah, sorry, that's right.
That's kind of that's almost any situation in life.
Well, that's true actually. That's true.
Surfing or coffee.
I haven't done too much surfing, but yeah.
No, but you want to be prepared, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah.
I'd have the best board you could have, and
sharks.
Sharks. I want to be prepared for sharks.
Anything.
Mate.
But you want to be prepared. What about the environment? How is the environment? What things do I want to look for in the environment?
Basically, camping, guess what? You're outside. Typically, anyway.
Right.
Unless you're camping inside a house. But that changes things up completely. You've got things called weather. And it can be, you can have a bad camping trip just because it rains the whole weekend. You've got humidity problems. It could be way too hot, and suddenly it's if you're going to roast your coffee while you're camping, then it becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a big no-no.
What's a big no-no?
I think I might have tried this once, but don't See, I'm talking about actually roasting coffee while you're camping, and that's the nice thing about camping. You can do this roasting, and don't do it in the tent, though, not inside.
Have you done that?
Yes. Even with the flaps up, it's still a lot of smoke.
Well, that's a lot of heat.
You do, and you smell it that night, too, when you're trying to go to sleep.
Permeates your sleeping bag.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. So one of the things we obviously need to be aware of is the environment. So we've got weather, humidity, tent. Don't do it in the tent. It's pretty much some of the worst conditions for roasting coffee, or I guess it could be.
It could be, because the other side of what I'm saying is camping can be a wonderful experience to do something like roasting coffee outside, and the best thing, you roast it the next day, you have it that morning, and it is a wonderful experience to have this really good coffee sitting around the fire, and you're drinking good quality coffee.
If you're prepared.
If you're prepared.
So be prepared, and, know your environment, know what you're running into, know what kind of humidity and all those kind of things. Just try and be prepared for. Obviously, if it rains, that's not going to be not going to be great. If it's raining
or 120 degrees, it's really hot Fahrenheit out there. It's hot,
and you're right by the fire roasting, so you could roast it on the fire pit.
Yeah, that's
which is going to be a little less consistent of a heat source,
and probably I wouldn't say a little bit consistent. It'd be a lot
less consistent. Yes. Fair enough. Well, and so you could use propane, which is going to be more consistent. More
prep. Just down that flame real low, and you can pop your coffee, which has 2 pops with it.
Right. Well, and the other thing is we need to store that coffee after it's been roasted.
That's a big one, because you don't have usually all the mod cons because you're out camping, and so you need to think, okay, I've roasted the coffee. How am I going to store this? The good thing is you're not going to be making so much. You're not going to roast so much that you're going to have a heap to store, and you may not even bother about it too much, because you may just. And if you don't roast the coffee, you bring the coffee with you. That's another way, and because temperature and all those things has a bearing on that too.
Right.
But you do want to store it sort of like I think we talked about last week of in a one-way valve.
That was a couple of days ago.
Oh, was it just a couple of days ago? Okay. One-way valve, dark, like the package it comes, leave it in there, and whole bean, and you should be fine for a week, 2 weeks, whatever you're doing camping.
Well, and I had an idea as we were talking about this episode. What about a Ziploc bag? I know a Ziploc bag is clear, so it's not going to be good for light, and air can get trapped in it. But let's say I have a Ziploc bag, put my roasted coffee in it, push the air out, zip it locked, and then put it in a dark space.
That's perfect.
Because it's going to be airtight.
It will be. There's a little trickiness of when you roast coffee, you've got lots of gases, particularly CO2, coming off, and it could expand your bag. I wouldn't even seal it up at that point, because it's going to blow up the bag and like a balloon, basically.
So you almost need something either to let it sit for a while or to put it in something with a one-way valve so the air can escape.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And what about so we've got the coffee.
Yes.
So the next step is mixing that coffee with hot water. How would you go about getting hot water? I mean, that might sound kind of basic, because my thought is you could put a pot on the fire. Yes. It doesn't need to be as consistent for you just got to get the water to a boil.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you do that for a cup of tea on the fire. You can do it for hot water to make your coffee in the morning or at night when you're making the coffee. It's a little more tricky. You've got to not burn your hand as you put the kettle. I say that because I've done that.
It's more full on.
Yeah, and you want somebody to sit it the kettle on, or the belly on the fire, so it doesn't just suddenly go into the middle of the flames. Now you've got to get it out of the middle of the flames.
And how big of a bearing does the water quality have on it? So let's say I've got a stream nearby.
Ooh.
Or I've brought water with me.
Yes.
What's your recommendation on quality level of coffee?
Right.
I think you could get some nasty water.
You possibly could. You could get some really good water from the stream. I mean, I don't know what safety wise,
but yeah, we don't condone or
I was going to say you could probably taste just fresh water and see, this tastes really good or really bad. If there's a sheep up the stream there, and
I think if a sheep has made a mess in the pond, it's a bit late, wouldn't you, by the time you taste it?
I was actually thinking of the whole sheep in the pond.
I hope you'd see that before.
Yeah.
But so, you could boil water there, which is at your own discretion.
Yes.
You
can get tablets and things like you do for just drinking clean water and sort of filter out some way. There's filters you could put it through.
And there are those filtering methods, like I've seen like little pumps, or just like a charcoal filter.
Yeah. I would say the best way.
What's the best way you
bring your water with you? Then you don't have to worry about, is there a stream nearby or is there not? You don't have to go back to a shop to get water or fill it up.
If you're bringing drinking water anyway,
exactly.
This is going to go into it's going to go into a beverage, so it's going to be drunken as well. So it's going to be, it's not going to be consuming more water than you would anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
If you expect to have coffee at night.
I mean, I would bring some nice filtered water, some pure water that you may be using for drinking, but you've got some for the coffee, because out there camping there's some difficulties, and so you might as well try and do the best you can and bring in clean drinking water. Not a bad idea.
So once we've got the hot water, and I'm kind of jumping around in our notes here a little bit, but we've got the hot water.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. But how do we grind the coffee? What are now? I know I think it was was it first episode? No, I think it was the second one about the grinders.
Yes.
We talked about mortar and pestle and those kind of things. So there are those methods of put it in a handkerchief and bang it with the shoe. But I guess it depends on what kind of coffee you're making too.
That's right. I mean, you may get down to just banging it with a couple of rocks. By the way, you may not even have a mortar pestle. Therefore, as all methods of making coffee, somewhat more coarse, more medium, fine.
And I guess to that point, what kind of coffee making methods are feasible for camping?
Oh, well,
and I might be jumping ahead there. So I guess if we can kind of figure out what ones are feasible, then we can kind of go with what grinder.
My favorite ones for camp. I mean, we can talk about it later, but Cowboy Coffee's Cowboy
Cafe.
Cowboy Coffee is well known on the range, and you get this black syrupy stuff, and there's eggshells in it, all sorts of things.
Aluminum looking.
Yeah, it's on the fire for goodness knows how long.
Things it boils up from there.
That's right. That's right.
Not so good though, right?
Well, it's all right, but no, it's not so good. I probably shouldn't. I'm being too kind.
Is it because it takes too long to brew?
Oh, it takes a while, and you even crack an egg into it. And put the eggshell in there. The whole idea is for the grind to go to the bottom, so you're not sipping all the grinds of the coffee. But then you got to drink that, and it's a tricky business. It can be done.
So just the shell of the egg. So the egg shell. So you don't want to boil an egg in there.
Well, you could do that too. You can have breakfast at the same time.
But the egg shell particles or whatever will help this coffee settle.
I've done it once, and a friend was doing it. I wasn't
overly impressed.
I was actually impressed. I was going to say, because it did do something.
I'd be interested to see what the flavor is.
But.
So there's that way. Obviously, I think my personal preference would be French press, just because of ease.
Yes.
So with French press, or if you're doing over like a Cowboy Coffee or Cowboy Cafe, what kind of grinder are we going to be needing for that?
By the way, French press would be my preferred method probably now these days. But the grinder, guess what? You may not have electricity. If you do, voila, no problem. On your preparation list, make sure you put grinder on there. Otherwise, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
But there's a lot of hand grinders out there, manual grinders out there. In my day, there wasn't a lot, and they would take a long time. So if you want to make a coffee, you start grinding it an hour, 2 hours before, because it's going to take a while.
Well, and I think that, if we're doing a hand grinder, you can't spin a blade fast enough to use it. So it really wouldn't be a blade grinder. Is it going to be a burr grinder at that point?
Oh, yeah, sorry. And that's the good thing. It would be a burr grinder. You get some cheap plastic burr grinders, but there's some really good ones now that are ceramic or metal, and they do a good job.
I mean, that's really the only thing that's going to give you the grind, because you can't spin it fast enough, all those kind of things. No. And what's the one that you have? You have that little black thin one.
Oh, it's an early on model.
Is it a burr grinder?
It's a plastic burr grinder. That one.
I know we bagged on plastic burrs, but that one has lasted quite a while.
That's true. It has. And the good thing about it, you get your whole family involved.
It does take a long time to grind that.
That's right. So you give it to your son, and he does a half hour on there, and then you give it to someone else, and they do another half hour.
That's in the preparation. It's bring extra people for grinding.
True. But when all those people get to drink their coffee, they think, wow, this is a good coffee.
It's like making ice cream together.
That's right. I'm not sure if we've ever done that. But
so for that, we're going to look for a coarse grind. So the grinder is not as crucial, as far as you could grind it with a rock if you needed to.
Yes.
But you were also, you could just get a hand grinder, and probably a cheap one is going to last you at least a trip.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can also get some pretty nice burr grinders.
You could, and the burr grinders go a lot finer too. The new ones now these days are pretty good. You can get a good pour-over, which needs a medium. You could possibly even get an espresso with some of them too. They go pretty good.
Yeah. So let's say making it. I want a little bit of decadence, if that's the right word.
Decadence. That's a good
What
word.
have you got for me? What can I do that just the guy next to me camping is going to go, boy, this guy never left his house. If I say, I really don't want I don't want anything but the best.
Right. Well, here's my most decadent camping coffee I've ever done, and I took my espresso machine in the back of the car. It was a little, it was a Forester, so the back came up nicely.
A
Hatchback. The cord fitted beautifully into the one little outlet that we had.
Almost like an RV hookup.
Yep, an RV hookup, very much. It was my hookup, and so which meant I could grind for the espresso, which means I could and did a perfect espresso, and I even roasted the beans the day before and put those into the grinder, put it into the espresso machine, and whoa! I do remember I only did that a couple of times, partly because people. I think it was again another line saying,
a group of people.
Where'd you get your espresso from? And they look and see it's in the back of my car. I don't know what I charge them for.
And you hear the boiler, whatever, doing its thing. It's like.
But guess what? Funny. I was camping and I could then have my espresso and I put it in a nice cup and by the fire, and I feel like this is brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm looking at our notes here. I'm looking at some of these little doohickeys you got. So,
yes.
Some of these might be super helpful for people who are doing camping. What's a Mocha Pot?
A Mocha Pot. It's an old method, actually. You can do it. Some call them stovetops.
This is the Cowboy Coffee.
No, it's not Cowboy Coffee.
It's not, okay, no,
somebody even called it espresso. It's not really espresso. It doesn't get up to the pressure that you need for espresso.
It looks kind of like a percolator.
Yes.
But it has a little, instead of, a pot or a teapot.
Straight up in the air.
It's got like a little tiny spout that goes at the top, and you set a little coffee.
Cup. You can get bigger ones. You're talking about a 1 cup one, but you can get bigger ones. You can get 4, 6 cup ones. And
anybody listening, if you're able, do a Google search for Mocha Pot. They're very cool looking.
They are, and that's the interesting thing. They look cool, but I have struggled to get a really good.
You're not a Mocha Pot believer.
No, I fine, coarse, medium. I've tried all different grounds. I tried to press it down a little bit, but they say don't do that, and it bubbles up and.
It's kind of like a cross between an espresso and a percolator.
Yes, and a percolator you can also do while you're camping. And percolators are...
This percolator is Cowboy Coffee, right? That's what we think of.
Oh, I mean, you could do that too. No, Cowboy Coffee is even a little more...
I'm thinking of a percolator.
Oh,
no, this is a little bit...
Cowboy Coffee's in a billy and they put it in and
that's right.
It's a little more simple than a percolator. Rustic, that's a good word.
Robust.
Robust. Don't use robust, use Arabica, but that's all right. The percolator is fine, but once again, and it's good volume, but as it the water goes bloop, up it comes, goes down through in the basket of the coffee. Wonderful. Guess what? It does it another time. Bloop, up comes the water down through the basket.
Like double brewing.
Well, probably by the time it's finished, like 12 times brewing, and you've now extracted all sorts of acids and things you don't want in your coffee. That's the difficulty with a percolator. The Mocha Pot's a good thing because it comes up once. Does it once?
Well, and I think of like a snow cone. Because a snow cone is ice with like a flavor drizzled on it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you suck the flavor out of it, like I know for me, I can't always just eat the ice. Sometimes I'll just like suck the flavor out or drink the flavor out of the bottom. But once it's done, it's just ice. You're no longer extracting any flavor.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's like you don't. It's good. For me, it's like I don't really want this cone anymore. So why would you want to then, if you're doing it with coffee, start re-extracting stuff that you don't actually want anymore?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Well, that's it. I think that one is a good one to do just because it looks cool.
Yeah, it does look cool.
It feels cool. Yeah, I will say it feels. And do it at home.
Yeah.
Buy one, put it on your stove or something. It's very cool looking.
I mean, that's
a good art piece.
Yeah, it is, and it's not a bad idea to practice all these methods if you haven't tried one at home. Just while you've got convenience of other things around, and if you make it a real mess, you can just make a regular coffee and
exactly.
Fine.
Yeah.
But I should go back to the French press, which I find is very simple and easy to use because today now. They're made of shatterproof plastic, so that it's much better. I think there's Java presses. There's a whole lot of different ones out there now.
I think we might just say the same. I think we might say the same thing.
Yeah, and with them now, you can have a double-walled one as well. So remember the cold, the weather. it can cool down a French press really quickly, but that keeps it warm, which is it's not always that good idea because then it keeps the heat in and the chemical reactions keep going in the French press and suddenly you got some bad taste.
Well, it's like having air pot coffee, and I know this is going to get off on a tangent, but when you have that coffee sitting in its own container, continuing to heat, it is going to kind of continue to extract a little bit, especially with French press because it's sitting in a heated space with the ground coffee below it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you were to remove it and keep it heated, that should be a little bit better. But
that's a good idea what you say. I mean, double ward's great. It just keeps it all hot because you want to put some hot water in first if you've got enough water, and to keep everything hot because French presses, that's the only thing that can cool down pretty quickly. But once you've done your French, your 4 minutes, that's probably another whole thing. Pour it into a thermos, a flask, or something that's going to keep it get warm rather than it be in a flask with coffee.
Well, and this goes a whole. I mean, man, there's so many things we go into. But if you go to a thermos, a metal thermos is going to have a metallic taste to it.
Yes.
Here's something I know you do that I also appreciate is when you use a thermos, use it for tea or use it for coffee. Don't use it for both because it will taint the other.
It's exactly true.
And so even if you're putting hot water, it's going to taint the hot water. So, I mean, man, you're not going to be able to bring any people with you.
No, you just come car full load of
if you can, bring a trailer just with your tools and equipment.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
So, so that's another thing. I mean, if you have a thermos, maybe get one. I mean, don't go to Goodwill because someone's probably already used it for something. But, try and dedicate it to its purpose. So, what about like a pour over?
Now, pour overs would be my second most favorite method because it's simple, and you want simple when you go camping, and you can.
Real quick to butt in. I was going to say on the French press, get a plastic one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The shatterproof ones you can get. You can go to REI. You can go to all sorts of places, Amazon, wherever.
Glass is just asking for trouble.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, but
that's a good point. Pour over would be my second after French press, and of course, obviously, espresso would come first.
If the campsite allows.
If it allows it, and if you want to get away, not want to get away from work because you've got a lot of people to want their coffee.
Right.
But pour over is simple. You can get a plastic one. You don't need a ceramic one that's going to break camping anyway, and put it in your backpack or whatever you're going to do. And you will need a filter probably though. It's one of those things of preparation. You think, you get out there, you got the coffee, you got it ground, and I didn't bring a filter if you're using the pour over method.
Right, but they have awesome things now.
Yes.
They're gold.
Yes.
Well, some of them are.
Yes.
But getting a reusable filter, so a gold filter that is tasteless.
Yes.
Because again, that's going to affect it as well.
Yes.
And even paper ones, if you have a bamboo paper, different papers are going to affect that coffee in a different way as well.
Yes.
But that way you can actually reuse the filter and you don't have to worry about finding a new filter and then you just kind of tap it out, the ground coffee, that kind of thing. So that can be really easy, especially if you're just doing it for yourself or two people. Once there's a group, it starts getting tedious.
Getting a group, as at home, groups make it a little more difficult when you've got to worry about quantity.
Right, and that really changes the game.
Changes the game. And we could have another pod about, even at home, how do you do coffee for large groups? There's not an easy answer to that.
Yeah. And what about a Java dripper?
Java dripper. I believe my nephew gave me my first one. He sent it to me.
Now, what is a Java dripper?
Well,
it's a pour over, right?
It is a pour over method, but I believe, there's probably different ones out there, but this one has these fancy little 3 orange, I can see it in my mind, feet that you clip onto the top of your cup. And then it has a pour over.
It looks like a pour over, but it's mesh.
Yes, and so it's very light, it's small. Some would put a filter in it as well, but it comes as a filter.
So it's almost like a filter and pour over in one.
Yes, you don't do it. Yeah, exactly. You don't need the plastic bit or the ceramic bit. And I've tried that. It works well. Again, if you're camping, you're going to go, whoa, this is good coffee. This is not just some instant stuff that is easy and convenient. This is really nice coffee. And so I've appreciated something like that, as I say, my nephew gave me one, Samuel, and it was brilliant.
Well, and it's so nice and self-contained. That's the thing I like about it. It's very, like you said, easy to clean up. There's no parts to get lost. If you lose it, you lose the whole thing. Yeah, it's very easy to kind of keep a...
You got to go a fairly slow pour on it because the mesh and things, it can sort of overflow.
Small, yeah.
There's a bit of a mess to clean up.
But yeah, if you can, it's a great one. AeroPress?
Some people love the AeroPress.
Well, a lot of AeroPresses, I don't actually know if any are glass, but
that's true.
They're plastic, so that's a very
that's helpful.
Rugged
Yeah.
solution.
But it can be a little more bulky. It depends how much room you have.
Well, they have the filters, and so there's a little more pieces to them.
Yeah, 2 bits to them, and you got to press them down. And as you can tell almost by the tone of my voice, they're not my favourite. Some just swear by them. They're wonderful. Camping, though, yeah, you could use an AeroPress. That would work.
And here's so for camping, you could roast your own. You can also bring your own. Obviously, just using the storage methods.
Yes.
Pretty much the storage method for coffee doesn't change, whether you're at home or whether you're here. And if you want to know about storage methods, because we could go on a tangent there.
Yeah.
Check out the last podcast because we did talk all about storage methods.
That's right.
But using one of those methods, you can bring your own coffee or roast your own if you're inclined. Roasting it, well, keep in mind you're gonna have to let it sit for probably at least a day. Otherwise, it's going to be too fresh, which is crazy. That's real.
I've thought of that. My preparation is I bring some coffee I have roasted the day before I went camping. So that day I can have when you've driven all that way, you put the tent up, you're feeling a bit, whew.
So you bring a special stash just to hold you over so that once you roast it, you can wait 2 days or a day with having fresh coffee. So you can still have coffee while you're waiting.
Perhaps some might say I'm addicted, but when you have just 2 cups of really fresh, good coffee, that's all you need. That's not overdose. So that's just good.
So if we roasted coffee on the fire, how long should I wait before I grind it?
Camping, fortunately, there's not a lot of rules you need to worry about camping. You can go sooner or later, but typically I would roast it the night before possibly, and the next morning I'd be drinking it. 12 hours. That's not
anywhere from like 12 hours to 72.
Yeah. I mean, 72. Your camping trip may be over, but
well, that's the thing. I mean, you gotta keep in mind. Yeah.
And I think so. There's leeway. You can have it earlier. It's not a problem.
And I was gonna say, I think we talked last time about our next episode would be about home roasting. So I apologize that it's not, but next week's episode will. So if you want to roast your coffee before you go at home, we can kind of cover some of that next week.
Yeah, that's a good.
So that'll be kind of a plug for next week.
Yes.
So running into the woods with your coffee, the big things are going to be making sure you have the coffee, whether that's ground or unground. Or sorry, no, whoa, I made a mistake there. Whether it's green or whether it's roasted, and you want to make sure that that's whole bean.
Yep.
In both cases, only grind it when you're ready.
Yeah. Or if you have to have it before you go, you can't fit that in.
Right.
I don't know why not, but if you can't, well, that's camping. You'll get away with it.
We all make sacrifices.
We do.
Making sure you have the coffee in the freshest state possible, and then also making sure you have a source to get hot water. It's like you said earlier, if we have something to plug into, you can always bring an electric jug.
Exactly.
That makes it so much easier.
So much. You can put that on. And you can have an extra 5 minutes in bed and
on the ground.
Or you like me, you can have a little timer so it sets it going at 5 to 7 in the morning, and when you get up at 7, it's already boiled.
Let me just say, camping trips with us is a lot of gadgets.
Yeah,
mostly coffee-related gadgets.
Yeah, I know.
Which is good. So a good source of hot water, however, whether that's on the fire. And just so people know, what kind of, if I'm doing it over the fire, what kind of boiling am I looking for? Is it a rolling boil or is it a very aggressive boil? Because that temperature is going to...
Yeah, and most coffee, where it's French press, pour over, all the ones we mentioned really, you're going to get it to a rolling boil. You're going to take it off with a pair of gloves. I think that's helpful. There's nothing worse putting your hand on the fire. Whether the fire gets your hand or the steam from the kettle gets you.
Oh, yeah.
They both hurt and they both burn.
But a rolling boil.
Take it off and let it come off the rolling boil. You want it below 100 C. You want it below 203 Fahrenheit.
Well, that's something else. You don't want to scorch to burn the coffee while you're pouring.
You've done all this work. You might as well not ruin it now by scorching the
And does that
beans.
go the same for electric kettles? Some of them as well?
It does. Exactly the same. The advantage of electric kettle, you can turn on the little switch.
But you want to let it sit for a second.
Yeah, let it click off and let it sit. So you can see, usually in the side there, the bubbles start to stop and you're good, I'm ready.
Yeah. So a good source of coffee, a good source of hot water, and then pick your method. Pick a method that you feel like works best for, whether that's going all out with the espresso machine.
Oh, yes.
I think I'm going to change my favorite to pour over, just because it's easy.
Oh, yeah. Pour in French press. Yeah, that. Yeah,
But French press, I mean, you can get a small one, I guess, if you want.
Yeah, and that's and because with all these methods you've talked about,
right,
suddenly you may need to do another pot of coffee. You may need to do all this hard preparation. You have this great coffee, and then someone you generously give one to someone else, and someone else, oh, could I have a coffee too? And then you've got to start boiling the water from scratch. It's cold water from the stream. It takes another half hour to boil it. So just be ready.
Yeah, know who you're camping with.
That's right. That's right.
Take a tally the night before. And then also grinder. You're going to want a good way to grind it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can think about it beforehand, it's going to be way, way better. So grinding it, good coffee source, good hot water source, a good picking a method and preparing for it. Maybe don't go for more than one unless you really want to, but pick a good method that you like and maybe practice it beforehand as well. So those are that's kind of the brief overview of it.
Oh, you'll have a great camping if you get some great coffee.
Whew. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. But yeah, camping and coffee can be done, and it can be done well.
It can. Yep.
You don't have to skimp.
No. It can be a great week of camping.
It's really as much as work as much work as you want to put into it.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it as good as you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you for joining us this Friday. Sorry this came out a little bit late. In the future, when someone listens back on this, they won't know what we're saying by late. It'll just be, it was on a Friday. But tune in next week, and we're going to do an episode on home roasting and kind of a little more details into that. And otherwise, have a great rest of your Friday. And I was thinking, maybe this weekend we challenge everybody to go out and try a new local coffee shop. Because if it's really bad, then you know not to go back. Exactly. If it's really good, you discovered something new.
Because where I am, it's Father's Day on Sunday. I know a local shop I want to go to because they see they're going to give free coffee to fathers.
Does that mean I have to take it?
Yeah.
I mean, get to. Well, thank you so much. We're going to start waffling. I can sense it. Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Try a local coffee shop and let us know if you got any questions. Thanks.